Well, good morning, NTI. Whoa, come on! It's a delight. In the book, The Art of Possibility, the authors tell us in the face of difficulty, we can despair, we can get angry, or we can choose possibility. Now, it has not always been my nature to be quite so Miss Pollyanna about things. Maybe in the past, I've been quick to criticize or be cynical, maybe. But one of the most valuable things I've learned from all of you guys this year is the power of pondering possibility. Yeah, no matter the topic, workforce transitions, increasing burnout, healthcare volatility, I've been amazed at how shifting the narrative towards the positive, towards some new possibility, completely transforms the energy in the room. I've seen you lean forward into the conversations. You've seemed freer to ask questions and explore options. Instead of saying things shouldn't be this way, you've asked, what is the thing that we want to see? Who can we work with to get there? How do we move in that direction? You know what's been happening, right? You've connected your why to the work at hand. Guided by why, you've been creative, relentless architects of the changes that our patients, our colleagues, and our healthcare systems so desperately need. Using why, you've created entirely new realities. And many of you have shared your stories about when you've been guided by why. Christine Lasich was doing her clinical rotations as an ACMP student, and she would find herself in rounds not understanding what was being discussed, and she would ask herself, why, until she did understand and knew what she needed to do for her patient. I've talked to a lot of VA nurses this past year, and I've asked them why they work there, why they choose to work there. Every single one of them, every single time, proudly answers, to serve our vets. And at last year's NTI, Allison Vitterick heard a presentation on the use of pet therapy to support patients and families. And it struck a chord deep within her because she saw its potential healing power for nurses too. So she came home on a mission, and she was going to create a pet therapy program for her ICU colleagues taking care of trauma and neuro and ECMO patients. Well, right off the bat, she hit a big, fat roadblock. And that was that the system where she worked didn't allow therapy animals in the ICUs at all. Really? At all. Well, like most critical care nurses, Allison was not easily stopped. Months and months of emails and meetings and setbacks and countless policy revisions. But finally, the new proposal was approved, and the mandatory training for the therapy animals and their owners was scheduled. And in March, the neurotrauma ICU staff saw its first therapy dog. I asked Allison why she did this, why it was so important to her. And she thought for a few moments, and she got tears in her eyes. And then a smile came to her face, and she said, I don't know why, actually. I just know that when I've had a hard day at work, and I get home, and I'm tired and upset, my dogs make me feel better. And I thought maybe dogs would make other nurses feel better, too. And wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to wait till the end of the day when we got home? I guess I just felt like it was the right thing to do. Well, Allison and these other nurses clearly were guided by why. And woven into each of their stories and many of the others that I heard is something else too. Something equally as powerful. And that is why was used as a tool for creating possibility. Why was the tool for changing the narrative from negativity and defeat to one of positivity and hope. Coming from a place of possibility doesn't always come easily. And that's because our human brains are actually hardwired to respond quickly and strongly to real or perceived threats. And these responses in certain circumstances are perfect. They can save a life. But in other non-life-threatening times, the negativity that can come with these responses can put us into downward spirals that can be really difficult to get out of. By opening the window of possibility, we physiologically stimulate the positive, optimistic centers in our brains, and this allows us to inspire rather than surrender, to explore rather than restrict, and to create rather than endure. And exploring possibility doesn't mean we have to know everything or have the most authority in the room. It does mean, however, that we need to be persistent and resilient while pursuing what we feel is right. Considering possibility taps into the parts of us that are hopeful and generous, enabling us to use our whys to create a world where we want to live and where we want to work. So now the cynic in me has to ask, really? So who's actually done this? Like, in real life? Well, Nalini Nadkarni has. And Nalini is a forest ecology professor at the University of Utah. She climbs giant trees for a living because she studies the impact of deforestation of old-growth forests. In 2014, she convened what she called a disturbance colloquium, and she invited faculty from all over the University of Utah from completely unrelated fields: forestry, neuroscience, burn care, traffic planning, urban development, refugee studies, and even modern dance. Their goals were to explore and understand the dynamics of disturbed systems, and then use those learnings to help different disciplines guide recovery after unexpected catastrophe or change. Their key finding is that while disturbance is unwelcome, unexpected, oftentimes devastating, and sometimes even life-threatening, it is always, always a portal to the new. The new state that results from disturbance, it may be better, it may not, but it will certainly be different. Nalini experienced this firsthand. She sustained life-threatening injuries after she fell more than 50 feet out of one of those old-growth trees. And during and after her recovery, she realized that her relationships with friends and family had changed. Now, how she performed her work changed. Even the very nature of her work changed, because in addition to her lifelong love of trees, she now had this newfound passion for studying the role of disturbance in our world. Portal to the new. I really like that phrase. It speaks of possibility. It inspires us to use our whys, our talents, and expertise and put them to work so that any disturbance, no matter how great, can be a portal to the new. And that doesn't mean that there aren't things to be worried about or afraid of, but it does mean that moving ahead is important, despite those worries and those fears, guided by our whys to pursue what's possible. Leanna Lees, she's a nurse. She entered a world of personal devastation after the suicide of her son in 2014. And her shock and her grief were overwhelming. And yet she felt this great need to learn all she could about suicide prevention, the stigma associated with suicide, and how to take care of suicidal patients and their families. And she's sharing all that she learned with us here this week at this NTI. Now, turning this tragedy into possibility is a journey that Leanna never would have asked for, but one she felt compelled to take. Our whys are always there for us. They're always there for us to use as a tool for creating possibility. And so, it is time. It is time that we, this bunch of nurses we call AACN, commit to use our why in a very powerful way. To create possibility for an issue that we know is crucial to producing the best possible outcomes for patients and families, for nurses, for all of healthcare, really. And the issue that I am talking about, it's staffing. It is time for you and me and all 117,000 of our AACN colleagues to move staffing from its current disturbed state through the portal to the new and create a different reality. A future where nurse staffing is no longer viewed as an operational expense, and instead is universally considered an investment in patient safety and exceptional outcomes. Because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Staffing, at its most fundamental level, is about patient safety. And once that is assured, then and only then can excellence follow. Our healthy work environments clearly state inappropriate staffing seriously endangers patient safety and impacts nurses' well-being. And they go on to say what you and I all know, that in the presence of inappropriate staffing, more complications, including death, occur. Inappropriate staffing has plagued us for far too long. Now, obviously, if this was a problem that was easy to solve, we'd have done it already. Now, some people think that ratios are the only solution, but addressing pure numbers without also focusing on the environment and all of the other factors that influence how care is delivered, it wouldn't be enough. This is a big problem. Viewing staffing as an investment and not merely an operational expense, well, It's a major grand scale shift in how we think about delivering patient care. Passage through the portal to this new reality, it's going to take a long time. And it's going to be complicated. But make no mistake, AACN is taking this on. We are in it for the long haul with relentless focus and in the spirit of true collaboration described in our Healthy Work Environment Standards. Martin Luther King once said, well, you don't have to see the whole staircase just to take the first step. And AACN has taken that first step. We've engaged an expert in advancing domestic and global health to lead us in this work. And we've met with key nursing and patient safety organizations to think together about creating new approaches for staffing appropriately. And a key part of our strategy, the vital part of our strategy, will be to collaborate with the decision makers, the healthcare administrators, the financial experts, the quality gurus, the healthcare leaders, and yes, nurses, to design radically different and lasting staffing solutions for the good of our patients and the healthcare team. This is work that's going to take years, maybe even decades, to achieve. So in the meantime, even with the constraints of the current healthcare system, we can all begin this new narrative. For example, what if we put a moratorium on the phrase non-productive time? What if we start calling it what it really is? Strategic time, quality time, professional time, dare I say, productive time? For nurses to think, to plan, to learn, create change, and improve patient care. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go bouncing into your CNO's office next week and just kind of declare this moratorium. I mean, without some kind of context, that would be like, that'd be kind of crazy. Non-productive time has been in our vocabulary for decades. But what about simply talking with colleagues and leaders about no longer labeling this very valuable time as non-productive? Words are powerful. By changing this inaccurate term, we shift the negative perception that comes with it towards the positive. And it is something we can all do right now. Many nurses in many organizations are successfully creating new possibilities for staffing. This week, there are several sessions and posters where our colleagues share their innovative solutions to staffing challenges. And you can see soon a future call for more of these great success stories, and we'll highlight them on our website and we'll put them in our publications so that you can have some practical ideas for improving staffing in your units right away. Now, as nurses, we're applauded for our ability to think and react quickly. And that said, our talents for fast thinking, I don't think they're going to serve us well here. Pausing to think and ask the right questions will allow us to ponder new possibilities. And taking time to establish strategic partnerships with the healthcare decision makers, this will help us navigate the journey of possibility. Experimenting with new staffing models and fine-tuning them to make sure that they really, really work. These deliberate, intentional actions will move us toward a future that fully utilizes the best that nurses have to offer patients and families during their most vulnerable times. Guided by why, we can do any work that is worth doing. And guided by why, we will look this staffing challenge squarely in the eyes. And why will be our tool. It will serve us now more than ever. It symbolizes inevitable but beautiful change, like a caterpillar that morphs into a butterfly. It is the wisdom of our past experiences and our life's lessons. Why lights our path when it is uncertain or perilous. And it opens our ears like a stethoscope so that we listen carefully. Why helps us move with grace and purpose like the resilient little hummingbird. And it is the wind behind the sails of our ship that will be navigating some pretty tumultuous seas. I challenge us to be like Allison and Leanna and all of the other nurses I mentioned. Let's leave despair and anger behind. Let's use our whys to choose possibility and create units and hospitals and a healthcare system where everyone thrives. Everyone. Gifford Pinchot was a 19th century visionary and the architect of our national forest system. He said, "The vast possibilities of our great future will become realities only if we make ourselves responsible for that future." Today, I call on us to leave disturbance behind and boldly move through the portal to the new to become the architects of our great future. A future that supports the sickest, most vulnerable patients, their families, and our healthcare teams. A future where nurses pursue possibility and, of course, are guided by why. Thank you.